So we've got people from various parts of the world on the webinar today, and we'll do some introducts for you before we get into the detail. And hopefully, you're going to see some good stuff here around what we've been working with, Excelerated working with Ariba to come up with a solution that hopefully will fit your needs. So, as I say, introductions to begin with, and then we're going to go into a bit of detail about the value of the right solution, a right P2P solution for your business. We call it Ariba Snap Procurement, and that's what we'll be showcasing with an extensive demo with end-to-end processing showcased in that. Okay, then once we've done that, we'll go into a bit more detail around how you achieve that solution deployment and realize the value, the significant value and benefits that come with that. And then a little bit about helping you. You've probably got some your business case in place. Depending on the level of maturity, we can talk to you about a sample business case and how we can help you. And like all good webinars, we've got a Q&A section as well. What we're going to do slightly different to make it a little bit more interactive as well is we have a series of polls that we'll be running to get some of your input so it feels a bit more interactive, if that's okay. So that's the agenda for today. We've got an hour, we've got lots to cover. As I say, we've got Q&A at the end, so until then, you're going to be hearing from a number of us on this team that comprises three parties, a partnership between SAP, everyone knows who SAP are, one of the leading software providers in the ERP space and cloud solution space, acquired Ariba about 5 years ago. We'll be talking about SAP Ariba solutions today, primarily for the mid-market. So, and we are a partner, ExceleratedS2P, Accelerated Source to Pay, global partner. We've been working with SAP and Ariba for many years on numerous projects and got a lot of experience in anything source to pay in this space, particularly around SAP and Ariba solutions. Just a bit about the people on the call today. The person speaking now is Naveed Ahmed. I'm the General Manager for the US operation out here. And I'll be leading through most of the webinar today for you. And I also have some colleagues joining me. So I've got Paul Jones, my counterpart in the UK, and he heads up our presence in the UK and the Middle East. And we've also got some other colleagues here. We've got Mo Ahmed, namesake, not related to me, from SAP Ariba, who will be helping us kick this off and give it a little bit of an introduction around SAP and Ariba's thoughts and leadership in this area. And then most importantly, Erica, our solution architect, Erica and Arundel, based out in the US as well, will be showing you the solution in a bit more detail. So the sizzle of the solution, you'll see it in its glory. So hopefully that gives you an introduction of who we are, where we sit. So we've got people from across the globe on the webinar today, and likewise we've got people here represented from our organizations, which is global coverage. So good to see all these attendees from many regions across the world. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Snap Procurement, and this is an offering that Ariba, with partners like ourselves, have recently, or in the more recent times, have come up with a more out-of-the-box, more palatable solution that will be a fit for companies in the mid-market, in the SME space. So companies, that are growing, sizable companies, aren't in the what we call a large enterprise space. So they're in a certain size, they have a need, and we saw a need in the market. And SAP is a big player in this market, along with Ariba. But we've come up with an offering that Mo's going to talk to you shortly about. But before we go into that, I've got a little poll I want to run, the first of our polls, and I'm just going to run that now. So there's a poll that's now running. So we'll give you a chance to vote there. So let's get as many people involved in that poll as we can. Okay, right. Still going through. Okay. So thank you for those voting. Give you a couple more seconds. All right, we're ready. Okay, so Are you seeing a poll results here, guys?
What I think we saw, I think if we just flick through it, was yeah, the cost and the speed of deployment, by the looks of it, is you know, at the two least quite interesting in terms of actually it's the functionality of the solution that, you know, from this survey, I guess, is driving, you know, the functionality to meet the business requirements is the primary driver when considering what's the right P2P solution for their organization, followed equally then by, I guess, you know, speed to value and cost.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, and apologies if I wasn't able to share that with you online. We'll definitely share those results with you. So in line with that, what I'll do is I'm going to hand off to Mo Ahmed from SAP Ariba to talk about, you know, what SAP are doing in this space, how we're partnering with them. Over to you, Mo.
Thank you for having me. Name's Mo Ahmed. I work as part of the Ariba Center of Excellence Business Development team, working with partners and, well, pretty much everybody, partners, customers, and internally to make sure that everybody understands who we are and what we're doing. So let's just talk about the Ariba of today. The Ariba of today is very different to what most people consider Ariba to be. Ariba has been in the indirect procurement space, doing source-to-pay solutions for many years, and I guess very well known for the network. And that's the centerpiece of the screen that you're seeing right now. It's still the linchpin of everything that we do. But Ariba is not just an indirect procurement tool anymore. We actually do a hell of a lot more than that. And I'm just going to spend 2 minutes just talking about what that means. So on the screen, you can see the supply were just as important to us as our buyers, right? They sell on our network and they fulfill orders on our network. And there's huge amounts of value that suppliers get from being on our network. And there's a lot of testimonials on that on just the YouTube channel that you can view anytime. On the buyer side, however, in addition to what we've been known as in terms of indirect procurement, actually we do a hell of a lot more. So supplier management, a new core pillar of the Ariba business, is providing supplier management visibility as a 360-degree view. But this is interconnected with an excellent supplier risk product. And this is all under one platform. So now you can manage your vendor, the performance of your vendor, the life cycle of your vendor, but also track any risks associated with that vendor. So that's very much a supplier management and risk pillar. We've got strategic sourcing, which some may say, oh, well, you've always done that. Right, we have. But now we do it across all categories, direct materials and indirect materials. So not only do we do all categories, but it's also based on industry as well. We have retail-specific processes, discrete manufacturing processes, auto processes, all built into the strategic sourcing solution, interconnected with your ERP. So very big difference. Again, same platform, and it's connected to the supply management process. Contract management, also part of that suite. So now you can manage your vendors, you can manage your contracts, you can do all types of sourcing, all in the same solution. But that's also connected then to supply chain. So that's another new pillar. Direct materials also naturally affect supply chain. So now through the Ariba network, we have the ability to augment the supply chain process by providing visibility to the buyers and the suppliers of what the forecast is, what demand is, what quality looks like. And you can actually visibly see that in real time. Procurement, we've always done. We can talk about that. I'm not going to steal the thunder from my esteemed colleagues, as they will show you the Snap Procurement solution, which includes our guided buying innovation, which is not only a pretty user interface, but it's an intelligent user experience, marrying customer compliance and ease of use and content all in one package. And then financial supply chain, which is it's a finance play. It's a treasury discussion. It's not a procurement discussion. So that's a very, very different landscape. And this is just the beginning. Over the last 18 months, we have done so much in this space. And if you look at the next 12 months, this is only going to get bigger and broader. What does that mean for the mid-market? So the SME area is a very, very important area for SAP Ariba. And source to pay from an Ariba standpoint touches the processes that I've just spoken about. But how does it touch it? It touches it by us working on best practice processes. So taking the solutions that we've had, so all of the solutions are exactly the same. You get the same solution, but what we've done is created a best practice variant, whether that is supplier lifecycle and performance, SAP Ariba sourcing, contract management, or operational procurement, where we've got our marketplace in spot buy, which is connected to the Ariba network, that can help customers with existing solutions that they're very much tied to. But if you really want to go next generation, you want to look at the Snap procurement and guided buying solution. All of this interconnected in one platform. That's what mid-market means to us. The entire source to pay story in all of the different scenarios, right? We can cover the whole thing. And all of this has been opened up to our partner network, and that's why we're on this webinar today. We're really going to showcase that and give you a flavor of the centerpiece, which is Snap procurement. But like I said, it isn't just a one solution, it's source to pay. And over the next 12 months, this is going to get bigger and broader with additional capability and innovation, like you're not going to see anywhere else. So I think, Naveed, that was my segue into you for Snap procurement and why you want to choose Snap. You know, what does it include? Well, you get spend visibility and control. You're going to increase your cash flow. We're going to talk about this when we talk about the business case. Automating accounts payable, improving supplier management. And how does that work? Well, you get an out of the box app. It's mobile ready. You can shop on the go. You can approve on the go. You get content from our spot buy marketplace on day one. From the moment that you go live, you'll have content readily available for your users to purchase from that handles mid-tail and long-tail spend, as well as rationalize existing catalogs that you have. Makes your invoicing process electronic through the Ariba network and the collaboration with our suppliers. And all of this is available in less than 12 weeks. And it's ERP agnostic. So whilst we're very much tied into SAP, our core native integration that makes all of that piece very simple, it is also completely available for non-SAP ERPs. And the business case benefits are very clear. Manage your contract leakage, get more compliance, get savings by really utilizing the strategic sourcing solution, and then the increase of cash flow through the efficiencies that you gain through the Ariba network.
Mo, thank you very much for that great introduction here to Snap. Great. So some of these themes we're going to go and explore in more detail. And the first thing we're going to do is, when I move the slide on, just to give you again a recap of who ExceleratedS2P are. We are experienced partners in this space, and all the things that Mo just represented on the Ariba portfolio of solutions and processes covering those solutions, we have expertise in that. So just a little bit more about ourselves. Okay. So what we're going to now do is I'm going to hand off to my colleague, our solution architect, Erica Arundel, who's going to show you some of the things around the solution itself, so you can see it in action. So the ease of use, the simplicity, some of the pre-built content. Some of this hopefully will resonate with you, whether you're existing Ariba user or new in this space. So I'll hand over to Erica, and who'll now talk you through this.
Thank you, Naveed.
And Naveed, as you do that, and Erica, just as you get set up to go, I mean, I think the key thing for me, for people to understand here, is what we're going to show you right now is actually the solution you get, you know, on day one of the project. You know, this isn't the solution that comes to you after a 12-week design and configuration phase. This is the solution you get on, you know, day one of the implementation of the project. I think that's a really important note. It is completely pre-configured and out the box, and therefore, you know, it's something that once you've validated that design fits your requirements, once you've put some of the master data in, you know, the solution that, you know, that is what we're going to show you today is the actual solution. So over to you, Erica.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Naveed. So how are we going to accomplish this? We can build out the slide. So we'll have the ability to shop and approve from an app. So kind of delivering that Amazon-like shopping experience that we're all used to in our personal lives, but delivering that in what we're doing in our businesses. So the ability to procure and buy items from an app-based system. The ability to have lots of suppliers ready to go. Paul mentioned that this is available from day one for you. So to that end, there's a ton of content and a ton of suppliers already enabled and ready to go from day one. And then also, eliminating paper from the equation. We want to eliminate as many paper invoices, paper purchase orders as much as we can from the process. And we'll take you through all of that in today's demonstration. Okay, so now let's jump in and we'll take a look at the solution itself. So bear with me just a moment. And can I get a quick pulse check to make sure everyone can see my screen okay?
Yeah, looks great, Erica.
Wonderful. Okay, so what I'm going to take you through today is a number of different buying scenarios. So we're going to start from simple to complex, really just kind of showing you we understand that buying can be as easy or complicated, but we want to make sure we've got a number of different scenarios in place. So obviously starting with the easiest one, let's say I actually have a new hire starting this week and I need to get them a new monitor. And here we have a number of monitors that we have pre-enabled within our catalog. So I'm going to grab this one here. We're going to add it to our cart. And I know this resonates with anyone that's ever bought anything on Amazon. And we go to checkout. We've got our requisition, our quantity, we have our supplier, any accounting information, and we have our purchasing process. So we have an approval flow that's pre-built into the system. Again, this is day one. This is kind of provided for you with delivered to any purchases that are being made. We have here my supervisor must approve. We have a cost center approver baked in as well. And then finance is set up as a watcher, just kind of keeping them involved. We send the request and off it goes to my approvers. We can see here it's being tasked with user 2 as our first approver in the chain. Now I ran through that really quickly and the intent was just to show you how easy it can be just to buy kind of a simple item. Now let's say I'm doing some further purchasing. I've purchased my monitor and I realized, oh, I need to get a mouse for my new hire as well. We look into our mouses and we have 2 mouses. It looks like they're actually Apple mouses, and maybe I'm looking for something that's compatible with a PC instead. Additionally, so we have this spot buy catalog, and spot buy, it's really just the ability to purchase additional content. And again, this is day one content that you're getting. We have relationships with a marketplace to really address the tail end of your spend, items that you may not be, have under contract, the relationships with sellers that may not exist. And what we can do here is we can very easily click into view different mices that are available, and again, add them to cart, selecting options like, colors and shipping locations, quantities, etc. Okay. Expanding on some of our more complex buying scenarios, let's say we need to purchase services. So services is something that we can include in this experience as well. So if I drill into my IT category, I actually have, we call it a line item form, but we have a form that can really capture all of the information necessary when you're building a requisition for purchases. So let's say I'm going to purchase my hosting services. We can select suppliers that I have in my system. We can provide a description. All of this is very configurable for you. So I'll show you that in a little bit too, how you can change some of these fields. It's very easy, drag and drop related. So you can pick and choose everything that needs to appear on your services request form. In addition to having services request, you also can do what we call almost 3 bids and a buy. So leveraging that same type of a form, but instead of it resulting in a line item on a purchase requisition, it actually, we're soliciting quotes from vendors. So maybe I'm undergoing a procurement transformation project. And I think I'm going to spend roughly $1 million. We have a respond by date, you know, again, any additional fields that we need to configure, and then we can actually send this to our sourcing desk to request quotes from. So this is kind of that tactical sourcing element that's embedded into the purchasing process. If I had contracts in place and I wanted to purchase consulting services, so here we have an agreement with my vendor, Arundel Consulting, and let's say I was going to buy 1 hour of consulting services from them. Your contracts can actually set rules around purchasing where there might be minimum release amounts. So in this case, you know, I have a minimum of £1,000 put in place with this consulting agreement that I have with this vendor. So your contracts can actually uphold different parameters and terms around purchasing. Last and finally, if you can't find what you're looking for, you can actually just request an ad hoc item. So this is just, you know, I need, you know, we ordered our mouse and our monitors. Maybe I need some cables and I can't find those in my catalog. So we can choose categories, provide a description, a quantity, and a unit price. And you can add those to your cart as well. Okay, so the buying experience is intended to address all aspects of things that you need to purchase within your organization. It's a robust type of a buying experience to be all-encompassing. Beyond that as well, there's also the ability for you to set up receiving. So when you've ordered a good and you have receiving rules within your organization, you will be notified when it's time for you to do goods receipt. So in the scenario that I had before, I ordered some monitors. We would then go through and see, you know, maybe it's time to do goods receiving on those monitors, and each individual would have the ability to do their receiving. You can indicate the number and the quantity that were received based on what was included in the purchase order. So I'm going to switch gears just in a minute. While we've submitted our purchase requisition and it's been submitted to my supervisor and a cost center approver for approval, what they'll have the ability to do is if they have the application installed on their smartphone or device, they'll be notified via smartphone and through the application that it's time for them to approve. Additionally, they'll be receiving email notifications when someone that is being tapped for approvals logs into the system. One of the first things that they're brought to is request for them to approve. So they can click into this monitor request that I've submitted. They can review all of the content within there and make an approve or deny decision. So at the point in which this requisition has made its way through all of the approval chain and everyone has fully approved, it becomes a purchase order and then it routes to the supplier. So now let's log in as a supplier and pick up the experience from the order transmission point. So the supplier has a network account. They'll have an inbox for all inbound purchase orders. And you can see here we have a purchase order that has been submitted. We've got the order information, their customer, the amount, how we're to settle this purchase order. So if I click into it, we can view all of the content within the PO itself, PO terms and conditions, shipping information, and line item information. From here, the supplier has three options. So they can create an order or order confirmation, confirm the entire order, reject, maybe communicate any back order status. We can provide shipping notices, which would include tracking information. And last and finally, they can create an invoice. Now, if you've ever heard the terminology PO flip, that's exactly what we're doing right now. They're taking all of the content from the purchase order and flipping it into an invoice. So this is where the power of the Ariba network really comes in, and we're able to embed your invoicing rules into this process here. So as the seller's going through and they're creating their invoice, they're providing all of the key information that you require when it's time for invoicing. So here I included a tax rate percentage, shipping information, payment term information, and here we have, you know, any additional fields that you need to be collecting on your invoices. So for instance, you know, I know we may have some folks in the UK on the phone. If there were country-specific invoicing rules around VAT tax information, we could be configuring custom fields within here for tax purposes. Now again, because we are using your invoicing rules, certain things like changing the quantities to exceed what appears on the invoicing, that immediately gets caught. So the goal here with this PO flip technique is really to remove as many of those invoices that hits AP's desk that immediately get kicked back. The goal here for AP is that we call it touchless invoicing. So all of those invoices that hit AP's desk, by the point in which they've already passed through a layer of validation and filters to make sure that, you know, they're really handling invoices that need to be reconciled. So the invoice is making its way back to me at this point. It's making its way back to my accounts payable team. One other thing to highlight too, our outbox for sellers. So this is actually going to have all of their outbound purchase or invoice documents. So here you can see all of the invoices that I've sent back to my customer, as well as invoice statuses. So, you know, one huge point to note what this is going to do, it's really supposed to mitigate the number of queries back to accounts payable. What's the status of my invoice? I've sent it in to you. All right, let's switch gears now. Let's go in as accounts payable and handle that invoice that's come in. So I have an invoicing tab here. You'll notice as this content's starting to load, it's actually going to create a to-do or a queue of items for me to reconcile from some of my invoices. These are all going to be the inbound invoices that have come in through our Ariba network. However, we also appreciate and understand there may still be some invoices that come in maybe via email, especially in some of those early days. So to that end, we actually do give you the ability to create an invoice within the tool. So if you do get a paper invoice in, you know, all you have to do is plug in the PO number. It should plug in all of the PO details, including the supplier. You have to input the supplier's invoice number. And again, it'll carry over the line item information from the PO. Accounts payable can then submit the invoice as it's been received from the seller, and it'll still go through all of the same invoice reconciliation processes. All right, let's go back and let's grab that invoice as it's come in. All right, so here's the invoice that I had received from the seller. Again, carrying over everything that the supplier had provided. We've got their tax information that's come over. If we go in, we can actually see it's now reconciling. If we grab the reconciliation, it looks as though there's no reconciliations that are assigned to me or no exceptions that are assigned to me, but there are exceptions that have come up. So, you know, while I'm the person that created the purchase requisition, you know, nothing is assigned to me. However, we do have some exceptions that are assigned maybe out to our tax group. We've got some payment terms mismatch, PO received quantity variances. So your exceptions are really going to be all of the reasons and the rules why you would not pay this invoice. So as these get assigned out, they get cleared, and eventually the payment status or the invoice status gets updated to paid. From there, and we're going to talk a little bit about integrations, but we would then communicate to your ERP that it's okay to pay this invoice. And then again, kind of kicking back to the seller, switching gears back into the supplier's account, they do, if you choose to provide payment statuses, they do have a remittance area where you can provide payment term or payment information back to them. Okay. Now, one other thing to highlight really quickly while we're back into our Ariba account as a buyer or as accounts payable, it's these dashboards and some of these reports that can be set up. So I actually have two different dashboards that I've created. Let me log in as a different user. So I've set up two dashboards because, you know, one of the things we want to be able to deliver is what we call role-based dashboards. Basically speaking, we want you to be able to log in and see content that is relevant to your role within your organization. So I actually have two dashboards that I'll take you through in just a sec, and I'll actually show you how easy it is to set some of these up. But here we have a CPO dashboard, and we're looking at all the content that a CPO would care about. So here we have spend leakage by commodity, and how we're measuring this is purchase orders that are kind of that are on those ad hoc line items. So here we can see cleaning equipment. We've got a ton of purchasing that's going on within this category that's falling outside of our catalog or outside of potentially contracts. What that means to me as a CPO is this is a category that we should go after. Maybe we need a contract in place with vendors within that category. Order summary by commodity. So this is just kind of looking at PO spend by categories. Spend concentration by commodities. Here's the top contracts I've written this period and the suppliers that they're with. So in Q3 2017, these are my top 3 contracts that have been written. And then finally, longest approval time. So, you know, who are my requesters that are taking the longest time to get their requisitions approved, and why is that? Are they buying more complex items? Are they building their requisitions? Is there a training gap that we might need to look into? So those are kind of some examples. When I put on my finance hat instead, I click onto my finance dashboard, we have, you know, invoice accruals. So accruals are a very important part of finance and reporting, as well as payment performance. You know, how are we paying our vendors? Are we paying within our payment terms? Fortunately for us, for the most part, we are, but it looks like we are, you know, there's still about 33% of our invoices that we're paying outside of payment terms. Received not invoiced, and drilling in by cost center. So, you know, which of my cost centers are, you know, do we still have invoices yet to come in? Again, order liabilities and payment forecast. So these are all very configurable, and I'll actually show you some of that. Many of these reports here that you're looking at are actually included in our prepackaged reports. So you'll hear us talk a lot about out of the box, day one, a templated solution. Prepackaged reports is something that, again, day one, you have this content provided to you right out of the box. So if I click into any one of my categories here, I'm going to go actually with my purchase order reports. You can see here I've got a lot of different canned reports that I have right out of the box. But let's say I want to, let's go with my requisition totals by supplier, and we view our report. Now, most folks are going to have some familiarity with pivot tables, and to that end, that's great, because that's really kind of the basis for how a lot of our reporting is set up. But you can see here, you know, here's our suppliers and our PO spend. The way reporting works, it's very drag and drop user friendly. So if we needed to add additional content, maybe we want to filter on potentially, let's go with our cost center. Let's pivot into our cost center first. We can just drag this and add it. So you can see here, you know, we're rolling everything up through our marketing cost center or sales, finance and admin, and that's the way you can do it. If you like reports, you can very easily save it. Everyone has their own personal workspace, but if you'd like to share reporting with your team, there's a public reports area that you can share that content. All right. And then last and finally, I did kind of promise that, you know, in the interest of time, if we could show some of that, the form building. So if you recall, when I was buying my hosting services forms, I always like to just kind of highlight how easy it is to set those up. So just a level set, you do not need any coding experience to set these up. A lot of times, someone that's creating these forms is more on the business side. So you can see here, if I was to go to my let's grab that. Here we have a financial services form that's already created. So right now we've got service, general, bookkeeping, payroll. If I was to add, let's add a field into here. We've got start date. Let's add another date field. We can just drag and drop. We can call this expiration date. So we have a date. We'll turn off the time. Let's make this required. And then you can provide help text. When we publish, and off it goes. And we've got a new field available in our financial services form. All right, I'll pause here. I'll actually kick it back to you, Naveed, to kind of wrap up the last and final pieces of the demonstration.
Erica, thank you very much. Very enjoyable presentation. Showed how the solution is simple, easy and effective to use. So appreciate that. I hope that resonated well with our audience as well today. Just to wrap up though, what Erica showed you, and we're showing this in a schematic, a little bit busy here, is that we've actually, we've covered your whole source to pay or procure to pay process. We can also cover source to pay. We focused on procure to pay for Snap here. And that whole process from requisitioning to that requisition being approved and the order created and sent out to the supplier, through to the receiving and invoicing, is covered by Ariba. We also recognize that you have some of your process and requirement for transactions and data and effectively integration with your ERP. What we're pleased to say is that Ariba natively integrates with many ERPs, including ECC, SAP ECC and S4, as well as a whole host of other ERP solutions out there that are commonplace. So we've done all that before, and we have native integrations. We have some other offerings there. For example, the accrual that Erica mentioned is a good feature that we can send over accruals, whether based on a commitment basis, if you're not doing real-time commitments, or accruals for the purposes of goods received, not invoiced, for example, and send them to your ERP. So that shows you, the accounting's covered, the whole process is covered with that end-to-end Snap solution. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the features, functions of the Snap solution. Now, how do we actually achieve that and achieve that deployment? I mean, there's some work that goes in. Aim is to get that work done as effectively so that you can realize benefits and the value as quickly as possible in as little as 12 weeks, essentially. How do we do that? Before we talk about that, I mean, here's some of the pain points that we've sort of addressed already. Whether when you're procuring ease of use, with which ease of usage, picking up preferred suppliers based on contracted suppliers, etc. Erica sort of showed that to you anyway with the solution we've been talking about. Purchase controls, whether we've got built-in policy checks or budget checks. Again, we can cover that. Order management, the orders going out and being approved and then sent out for collaboration with your suppliers and your buyers, and then subsequent documents that continue with that supply chain with acknowledgements or shipping notices, notifications, and then into AP. We showed a lot about AP, and invoice management is a big part of Ariba, what Ariba offers with the invoicing part of the solution, exception handling, etc. They're often a pain point for the mid-market. So, I'm telling you your pain points and how we address them anyway. And then, we didn't go into too much detail, but you're going to get benefits around discount possibilities and effectiveness with your payment cycle, so you can achieve those discounts. And there are solutions around that as well. And overall, overrider is management and control, lots of visibility available. Lots of trail. It's all in the transactions are easily the transactions in the system, the data is there, we can report on it. Okay, so just to sort of how would you benefit that? So if you could deliver savings of 10% and reduce your costs, reduce those cycle times, and then get your people to do more strategic value in your business, wouldn't you want to look at that? And you do that in weeks rather than months and get some payback very quickly. Well, this is the approach we've come up with. So Excelerated with Ariba come up with a accelerated P2P in a box, or Snap Procurement aligned with that. And it's really focused for organizations of the growing size in the mid-market. But we've also used this approach, which we'll talk about shortly in more detail, for other enterprises. Larger companies have also looked at this. So aim is that we come along with best practices, pre-configuration, ready to go, as Paul said earlier, and then also integration, importantly. So we have flavors of integration. So for example, a light integration, so that we can get you transacting and get your data to the relevant places in your ledger, for example, in your back-end systems. Okay, so the features, it's a given, they're going to get functions and features. And this is a schematic. I won't go into too much detail. Erica showed some of these during her demonstration earlier. To give you this approach, we've had to kind of prescribe in some areas what you would get out of the box. So there's a whole load of features there and additional ones. You're not confined to sticking to those set features on the left. We could add those extra ones, but obviously there's a trade-off there then in terms of requirements versus your possible timeline. But the solution's there, it's extensible. You can grow with it, functions and features as you'd expect from a world-class leading solution like Ariba. Okay, a bit more about the way we do it. There's a quick view of the plan. So the phase one, which is the, get you up and ready, transacting very quickly. Here's an approach that we've done. Typical approach is there's a bit of agility built in here. So, we're not, it's control, but agility. We're moving to next points in the phases and in the phase, the timeline, appropriate milestones and points. But one of the key things is the validation, preparation and validation phase. So we've spent quite a bit of time with you upfront with prescriptive analysis for preparation and validating the solution we provide. So why wouldn't this solution fit your business? Okay, so there's a timeline of 12 weeks that we can come up with, and then just as you grow, these phases can be extended out. So here you're looking at extending your solution beyond and into the full source to pay suite. Then we have various phases that could be brought in, and this is not hard and fast, but here's an example of what could be done. So whether we extend out P2P functionality with some of the things I showed you earlier, or bringing in sourcing or contracts, etc., or do those earlier. But the options are there for you with our approach. Okay, to make that happen, we have a proven methodology. Okay, and I sort of showed that on our earlier plan. on one page, and these are the kind of phases that we would go through. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. You can see that to facilitate that, we do have a load of accelerators, pre-configured content, whether it's a solution on the system, or whether we've got some templates, for example, around your best practice recommendation with some guiding principles around maybe your buying channels, which I show in the bottom half of the screen there. We have process flows that we can use to map to either your needs or your requirements going forward. So this is a tried and tested approach, a lot of content already up front. We also help you with project management as well. Okay. Right, just wanted to throw this in quickly along the lines of some of the surveys. So we've got, this is some of the things that was asked on a research that was done, and these are the results that came out of this particular opinion or survey that was done. And the three top things were efficiency and automation, getting supplier collaboration, getting the most value out of that, and then the other one, maybe sometimes not thought of, but it's that integration or communication and collaboration internally between procurement and finance, and make that end-to-end, so it's a seamless process. Okay, so what that means, if you achieve that, speed does mean transacting in a few weeks, not months. Okay, supporting processes and integration, improving that and simplifying, getting your suppliers on board and your people on board to the process and technology, and then obviously that will lend itself to reduction in costs as well in terms of deployment. All right, we want to look at extending adoption, because adoption means people are going to use a solution that is of benefit across the landscape of an organization. So people, once they promote that, find it easy to use, you're going to get all the benefits that are inherent in a solution of the type we've been showing you. So some of the things available there, pricing, workflows are easy to extend, easy to manage yourselves. I mean, it's a configurable solution. So once we've deployed this, you own the solution, you have the administration capability for that solution. Okay. Adoption also means a lot more in terms of efficiency. Okay, so there's givens like we never mentioned maybe mobility. So mobility is available as well with approvals on a tablet or a mobile. Okay, so what does that mean? Overall savings, get some lots of efficiencies and rapid payback. Okay, so just to throw in a little sort of example, if your CFO wants, when we were looking at the angle from the CFO based on the original slide I showed you, we can reduce costs, and we've seen that up to 60% costs. And we're going to show you a quick business case in a moment. Similarly, process efficiencies, and quickly get those processes more efficient in a rapid time frame. Okay, and then we can get you up and running quickly, as we mentioned. So you're transacting on a system, not building it for months, but you're actually live and up and running and transacting, getting the benefit from that solution quicker. Okay, just a bit about a business case. I have a sample here of a business case. And this was a company we worked with. And essentially they had a 200 million in spend, okay, which we'll talk about how much of that was addressable. It doesn't quite show there on the right side there, but 20% of that was direct spend and the rest was indirect. So it was more of a service-oriented company. Some of the metrics around what their organization was and how things were, in place. So, a headcount wasn't huge. 6 people processing POs, couple processing AP invoices, but the volumes were reasonable: 40,000 POs, 39,000 invoices. Okay. And then some are more around the metrics here. So when we looked at the addressable spend, which I'll show in another slide, it was down to about 177, which we could use the solution to procure through for that 177 Okay, a little bit more to build a business case, and they were very early days in their e-procurement, e-invoicing journey, so not much was already in the throes of e-invoicing or e-procurement. So you can see there's 90 and 85% numbers there. So this is what the actual numbers came out, and on the left-hand side, millions of dollars of savings per year. Just a quick graphic, and we've got the breakdown of those savings and how they were comprised. Okay, so just quickly, and overall, it was a saving of nearly 20 million over the 5 years. Okay, and that's based on a conservative 2.2% estimate of savings, whereas some of the players, the experts in the market, say addressable spend percentages can be higher in terms of savings. Just a quick flow through in a bit more detail on those numbers. Okay, a bit more value around that, and then just about the this to show you how that addressable spend was made up. Okay, so that gives you an idea of a business case. We do these with our customers alongside Ariba. We're probably doing these, and we can help you with that as well. Okay, so we're at Q&A, and we're right on the hour. So I mean, we'll get the question. Apologies, we had a little bit of a late start. So let's look at what the questions that have come in. I think some have come through. So I'll give you a moment. Sorry, guys, if you need to go, we understand. We can always take questions separately. But any questions that are already out there, Paul, that we can field right now?
Yeah, and just to remind everybody, there is a little questions section on the right. So if you feel those through to me, I can pick them up and relay them. So I guess there's one here around how does and maybe one for yourself, Erica, how does the SNAP procurement differ from, if you like, the sort of full SAP, the standard SAP Ariba? There's a question there from one of the customers.
Sure. Yeah. So the core difference is really that the SNAP procurement is designed specifically for the middle market. Historically, Ariba had been delivered more into the large enterprise space, and as we kind of took a more strategic approach at looking what the mid market needed, we kind of took some of the elements out of P2P and right-sized them for SNAP. So, we understand that, the investment in time and resources and quite honestly cost is absolutely there for the middle market too. So we want to make sure that we're able to deliver that content at the right speed, but in the right type of an approach too. So it's not that you're losing, or there's a core difference in the historic P2P solution, but it's right-sized into this middle market space.
Great, thanks, Erica. And I've got another question here around, just a question around when you guys talk about the mid-market, obviously we've mentioned mid-market, we've mentioned large enterprise, which are very much sort of the way in which SAP term and segment the industry. Maybe a question for you, Naveed. What's the revenue parameters? What's the size and scale of the spend or the transaction volume or of the supplier base, which sort of fit the SNAP solution that we've just walked through and obviously demoed to the people on the webinar?
Yeah, it's a good and common question. So typically, Paul, and for the asker, it's we look at revenue mid-market. I mean, these are sizable companies still, up to $1 billion, or your local equivalent in your region. So up to $1 billion is classified as a mid-market in terms of revenue. And then spend, the business cases vary. Spend and document volumes are factors in this. So anything above 100 million, 150 million, 200 million spend, addressable spend, which we can work with you. I mean, we'll do this if you're unsure of these kind of quantifications, we can work with you. So there's justification. We work with smaller companies than that with those sort of numbers. So that gives you a rough idea. I mean, every company can benefit from a solution, e-procurement world-class solution like this. So there's always exceptions, but yeah, that gives you a broad outline.
I've got a question maybe here for you, Erica. Can we just talk a little bit more about the forms that we demonstrated? How easy are they to set up? Either pre-go live or post-go live. How scalable are they to other categories? Other areas of P2P and other buying channels. Can you just elaborate? I know you touched on it in the demo, but could you just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I saw that question too. That's a great one. So, the out of the box, and Naveed, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe on day one that you get 10 forms out of the box to address some of those key categories. It's either 10 or 20. I'm not positive.
It may be 20. It may be 20.
Yeah, I was going to say, I said 10 and I realized I think it's 20. So you get 20 forms, and it's to address some of those key service style requisitions that you might be buying. They're super easy to set up. I know I took you through just a brief example of adding a field to an already existing form, but it's super easy. If you can, set up your Facebook page, you could probably create some forms. And the goal is to really address all of those seemingly complex areas of spend in the purchasing process. So any of those, you need to make sure you're capturing complex information from your sellers, or make sure that you're conveying specific requirements to your sellers in your purchase orders and your purchase requisitions. A common example is business cards. So a business card would make a great example of a form, because you need to input your name, your title, your address, your phone number, fax numbers, email, all of that complex information. So any type of a line item in a requisition or PO that has more complex requirements behind it make a great example of what could be a form.
Great. Thanks, Eric. And then Naveed, one for you here around, the question is, look, what's the customer not getting in the 12-week deployment, in the 12-week accelerated deployment? And the example here is, look, the master data interface with ERP, in people's experience, can take considerable amount of time. How do we, how do we scope that into the 12 weeks?
Okay, well, that's interesting you mentioned that one. That is, there are a number of interfaces, for example, included in the deployment, and that's one of all the master data. Key integrations, or like master data or the various objects, there's around 10 objects that would be more than sufficient in terms of master data that are included for the Snap deployment, along with a couple of key transactional integrations. Yeah, I mean, Paul, you're right. There's going to be, you got to scope it to make that work, that 12-week timeline, so it's effective and efficient. But there's a lot included. So, for example, if you wanted to do an integration around, for example, accruals, maybe if you have a non-SAP system, as your back end, then that would be an integration that would work with you, and maybe you would build. But if you're an SAP customer, that's one of the ones we include. So as part of the deployment. But you're getting a pretty robust set of functionality, including integrations. So difficult to call out what would be missing. It would be sort of on a case by case basis. As I say, it's got to be. There's a bit of a trade-off here between sort of losing the message of the 12 weeks and the speed of implementation and the cost efficiency you get against adding more functionality.
And I guess, Naveed, I mean, going back to the presentation, I think, look, I mean, it's in the 12 weeks is master data in and okay to pay file out, isn't it? So I think, to be really clear, I guess, what we've scoped into the 12 weeks from a master data interface is all of the master data required to generate a purchase order, right, and to pay, process an invoice, and post an okay to pay back to the back to the back end ERP. So I think if a client, in my experience, wanted to do a much tighter integration with requisitions and purchase orders, going back into the ERP, then clearly that's a scope and decision, and would have to be scoped and timelined appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely correct. But the good news is those integrations are again pre-built. they're just not in the timeline. But yeah, absolutely right. So all of those are achievable. We've got customers who wanted to do some more integrations as part of the maybe phase 1, and we built that in. I mean, it might change the timeline slightly, but yeah, good points. What Paul says.
Right, so I think let's wrap it up there. I know we've overran for a couple of minutes. I think just one final question for Juliana and Karen around: can we share? Can we send out the presentation, maybe a PDF version of the presentation to the attendees? I'm more than happy to do that. So we'll pick that up as an action to people. What I would say, look, we've had an hour or so. We've gone through a customized demo and showed you, I guess, when you go back to the survey we did at the very beginning. I think what we're trying to present here is a solution that is rich in functionality, which people said on the call was their primary requirement, but allows you to drive speed and adoption, and implement quickly, and therefore deliver speed to value. So, for us, we're more than happy to do a deeper presentation of the solution. Delve deeper into the different buying channels, delve deeper into some of the different categories, the different invoicing channels, and go into that in more detail. Likewise, we have quite a rapid way of helping organizations help you build your investment case and your business case for such a project. We're more than happy to discuss that with you. And look, we are going to do some future events. Mo at the very beginning talked about the mid-market source to pay journey, and we've talked here very much about P2P, but rapid accelerated sourcing, accelerated contract management, accelerated onboarding of the supply bases are things that we're currently developing and want to deploy alongside a P2P solution. We'll have some future events around that. Look, thank you to everyone, Naveed and Erica, particularly, and to Mo for taking everybody through the presentation. Thanks, guys, and thanks for everybody to participating and the attendees.